Hello, I'm called Tim. I'm a member of the bottom 1%. All I have is knowledge in my head, and I'm willing to share it with you. Everyone's been going, or a few people have been going crazy about this SNL skit, female comedian. She talks about if she was still a slave, her love life would be better. And I know that all she was doing was a comedy skit. She didn't mean anything by it. But little does she know, or maybe she does know, that she's actually correct in saying that black people were better off during the slavery days than they are now. That's not to say I want to go back there. I would actually like to go back to either Reconstruction or even during the Black Crow days when we had our own things. But post integration, blacks have slowly declined. We have degenerated in every way and are worse off than we've ever been on this continent and on this planet. That's not my opinion. I know what I'm talking about because I've been studying slavery and the slave plantation. And I'm going to give you a few books, show you a few books that if you want to read them and go through them will prove my point. Classic slave narratives. Here are the narratives here. Now these people talk about the horrific institution of slavery, and they talk about what life was like on the slave plantation. But if you look at some of these people, okay, these were high level people. Frederick Douglass, one of the best orators, period. One of the top selling autobiographies ever, right next to Benjamin Franklin. If he was coming along today, he couldn't sell that an autobiography, as great as he is. Black people wouldn't even want to read it. They wouldn't even understand what he's talking about. Black people today read that and can't understand what he's talking about. Because, the man, the words. So here we have high level people, people who were slaves, one that was free and enslaved that came back to freedom, who are trying to free other blacks. That right there tells you that we're worse off. No one's trying to help us these days. Got a black in the White House from Chicago. Chicago's on fire. Black bodies being killed every day, and he says nothing about it. Before the Mayflower, the history of Black America. This tells you what black people were doing during that time. The creations, the high level of thinking, the high level of inventing, the high level of, across the board. Okay? During times of slavery. The Negro president. Okay? This talks about Jefferson and his slave plantation, and I guess he was a benevolent slaveholder, although, what he was doing with Sally Hemings, was it rape? Well, of course, because he was in a position of power. But if you listen to what his slaves were doing, they still were a community and functioning as a community more than what we're doing today. Slavery in America talks about the beginning and it takes you all the way to the end. It talks about uprisings, slave uprisings, people trying to free themselves. There's an essay in here called The Slave Life Cycle by Alan Kolikoff. Amazing essay. They had a system where they were teaching black children trades. This is all in the slave quarters. This had nothing to do with master. Other than they were reaping benefits, they had a system for old elderly people. They had a system of marriage where men would travel to further plantations so that they wouldn't marry their relatives and their family. Today, black people are rolling over right on. They sleep with one friend, roll over the other way, and sleep with the other friend. Okay, sleeping with their own children, making children with their children. This is the foolishness that's going on in our community today. But during slavery times, it wasn't happening. But here's another book you can read to prove my point. An Imperfect God, George Washington, his slaves, and the creation of America. He talks about how his slaves behaved. And a lot of times George Washington would let his slaves just escape, get away. He wouldn't go looking for them or, wouldn't care. Because he knew it was wrong, but well, slavery was wrong. But again, blacks were not safe if you just freed them sometimes. So you had to try to come up with a plan. But he did free his slaves in his will upon his wife's death. So that again tells you how the slave quarters describe some of the slave quarters, how they were attacked. This book here, Slavery in the Making of America. There was a time when slaves could take their owners, their masters to court. Slaves could vote. So, slave periods went through different times, ebbs and flows. But through all those times, with all the horrors we faced, we still were conscious of who we were, where we were, and we cared for each other. Today, we're still being lynched, shot down, strung up in trees, and all kinds of other things. But we don't even give a damn. We just shrug it off. Babies are being kidnapped. Their organs are being taken and their remains are being dumped on the shore. We do nothing. And then they pay the parents off and they say nothing. This book here is the one that you really must read. Black Presence in the Era of the American Revolution, 1770 to 1800. That's slave time, right? Right? These people were doing some amazing things. Okay? I mean, some amazing things. They had some slaves that were wealthier than white people. So all you people who keep saying that because Oprah's rich and Jay-Z's rich, we had wealthy people during this period. Okay? But those wealthy people helped other Africans. They didn't leave them stranded and stuck. So that's some of the books that I've read and studied. That's where I get my knowledge from. That's where I get my thoughts from about slavery and comparing it to today. Where do you get yours? Okay? Because I don't get stuff out of thin air. Until next time, please take care of yourselves. It is harsh out there. And I hope to see you the next time. If any of the viewers or anyone in the chat room wants to speak, speak now. Forever hold your peace. Going once, going twice. Take care of yourselves and try to stay healthy.